Hey, everybody. So, my guest today is Julian. He is the founder of Mergify, a tool that makes your code merge faster by automating your pull requests. As always, we would like to hear more of the founding story and the strategies that accelerated that growth success. Julian, are you ready to take us to the top?
Yep.
All right, here we go. So, can you tell us a bit more about who you are and Mergify? How would you describe it?
Yeah, so who I am, I'm a software engineer. I mean, I've been doing software engineering for close than 20 years now, mainly in open source. I mean, I started 20 years ago working on open source projects, and that has been my background since then. And so the SaaS I'm working on right now is Mergify, where I mean, spending a lot of time doing contribution to open source projects for the last years. I use a lot the Github platform, which I expect most engineers know nowadays. And I mean, I love it, but it has a few shortcomings. And after using it for a few years, me and my co-founder Mehdi, we ended up having this kind of ideas of doing more automation around GitHub, and we started to scratch our own edge, basically, like trying to solve our own problems, and that's how we started to build Mergify. So today, it's a let's say a platform where you can automate all your workflow around pull requests in GitHub for software engineer teams.
Great. Always good to start something new based on your own needs and frustrations.
Yeah.
So, what's the exact business model of Mergify? How are you making money?
Right. So the project, I mean, Mergify is an engine, which means it's like a bot. We automate the workflow for our customers. So let's say that you are a software engineering team and you want to automatically merge your pull requests. So one of the problem we solve, I think 100% of our customers use these features is like the auto merge feature. Let's say you have a coworker that creates a pull request, like to change some code in your code repository, and so they get this pull request, and every team now has a code review policy where you know that one of your coworker will have to review your code, and then you will have tests that are going to be run by your CI, which will say in let's say 10 minutes if the PR is valid or not. But the thing is that all of that is asynchronous. So by the time you review the PR, it's very likely that the CI has not finished to run. So you can't merge the PR, right? You have to get back to that page at some point later when the CI is done. But maybe in 10 minutes, in 20 minutes, you don't really know. I mean, can change. And then you have to go back to that page and press the big green merge button from GitHub, which is very annoying because you know that if you approve as a human the PR and that the CI passes the test and say, okay, it's okay to merge, you want that to be merged and maybe then to be deployed. And having to wait that is pretty boring. And when you are a big software and engineering team with 10, 20, I don't know, hundreds of PR every day, I mean, having to manage all of that manually is very a daunting task. So what we provide is a way to help our customers to automate that by writing rules where they can describe what is a valid PR, let's say, and then how to automatically merge it. So we provide this as an open source engine, so anybody can deploy it, but it's again a daunting task to manage that because like you have to connect to GitHub, receive a few thousands events per minute from GitHub telling you what to do. So we host that ourselves and we sell the service as being hosted as a SaaS, basically.
Yeah, makes sense. Sounds like a great tool for developers. I'm sure a great percentage of our listeners will love this as well. So, how did you start the business? Take us back from the idea to launch.
Yeah, like I was saying, so we started to solve our own problem. So we were having this auto merge issue. Like we had to auto merge. We were a very small team back then, working on an open source project, and I think we were like maybe 5 engineers, and we were sending a lot of PRs every day, and having to babysit them every day. I mean, it was really boring. So we started to write this tool to help us, and I mean, we talk to other engineers. I don't know. We have a pretty good network of open source engineers, and we talked to them about this issue we were having and the tool we had, and they were like, "Oh, that's very interesting. I mean, we would be eager to use it." So we started to provide to host it for them, and they started to use it. And I mean, after a few weeks, I talked to my friend Mehdi, we I was working with on Mergify. I mean, and so like we should probably sell it to other companies like having open source projects is great, but there might be people out there that might be willing to pay for the service and to help us maintain it in the long run. So that's how we started.
And since it was built for your own needs, right? How did you get those first users to the product?
Yeah, so the first users, like I was saying, it was mostly our coworkers, colleagues, people from our network. We were talking about the issue we were having, the product we were building to solve it. And since we decided to provide the service for free for open source projects, because I mean, like I was saying, me and Mehdi, we were doing open source for the last 20 years. That's in our DNA, basically. So we were like, it's cool. It's a great way also to get your first users to I mean, if your service is good and you provide it for free to communities like that, it's easy to grow with word of mouth, which has been a great way for us to grow so far. People recommend the service to others, and when it's free for your, your side project or whatever, it's pretty easy for people to get on board, and then to if they also have a work as software engineers, to get back at work and say, hey, I'm using that on my side project. It's pretty cool. We should use it internally for corporate projects, so you can get your first customer like that. I think the first customer we had that was exactly this way. Like they were using it for an open source project and then decided to use it for a private repository. And we said, okay, if it's for a company, you will have to pay us, and then you get your first customer.
Interesting. So back to today. What is your most important acquisition channel to get new customers on board right now?
Yeah, so it's still word of mouth from like people using open source projects. Basically, there are entire communities. For example, I know in the Scala community there is a tool that is called Scala Steward, where people get dependency update for their Scala project that are sent by a bot, and it's pretty boring to have to merge them manually. So somebody figured out Mergify could do that for them, so they're starting using it and then starting to advertise on Twitter everywhere that hey, you could stop manually push the button and use Mergify to do that, and then people discover the tool and it spread for a few weeks, a few months into that community. So it works a lot like that. People are going to GitHub, trying to contribute to whatever project they might want to contribute to, and they see Mergify are like doing things on the PR, adding labels, commenting on the PR, merging them automatically, and they're like, "What is this tool?" And then they go to the website and check it out. So that's one of our main channel. The other one is the GitHub marketplace. So since we're a GitHub application, we have been listed for 2 years, I think, now on the GitHub marketplace. So that's a pretty good way also to get new users and new customers, especially because I mean GitHub can handle everything from installation to the payment of your subscription. So that's a pretty good way for us to sell. We actually started pretty soon to on the GitHub marketplace for those reasons. I think marketplace in general are a good way to. It's hard if the marketplace is crowded. I think the GitHub marketplace is not that crowded yet. We're still lost in the category somewhere, but from time to time we get in the front page, which also increase our growth, which is a good thing. Uh, I mean, we have no clue what to get on the front page, but from time to time it happens, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, with those marketplaces, you are immediately in front of your potential users, right? So, Julian, is this your first business?
It is, yeah.
So, what is your most valuable lesson or fail up to this point as a founder, you would say?
I think, I mean, both me and Mehdi are engineers. And when we started, we were like, well, we're going to build a great solution technically. And then, you build it and then they will come. And we were lucky because it kind of happened due to our network in open source and the word of mouth and the networking effect of it. But that only works for a very short amount of time, then you're out of friends or anything. And I think we did that after a year working on the project where we were both doing engineering stuff like coding the product, and I said to Mehdi, we need to stop. You're going to do the product alone, and I'm going to do the marketing and all the boring stuff we don't want to do, like talking to customers, to users, trying to get the product to the next step, and trying to like have a better growth. And like it's very 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 hard to do that when you are a solo founder. I mean, we are two, so that's better for us, where you have to change your art every day and to be able to like work technically on the product, but also to do the marketing thing. And I think it's the most important thing and most, I mean, that's what we learn is like it's marketing first and then it's like the technical stuff.
Yeah, getting your product out there, right? At what stage is Mergify right now in terms of revenue? And how much time did it take to get to this point?
So we just crawled the 150K ARR. We started the project close to say 3 years ago now. We got our first paying customers maybe 2 years and a half ago. So yeah, that's mostly 2 years to get there. I think the first month were pretty slow because we started this as a side project, saying we'll never find any customers to pay for this. And when you get your first customers saying, actually, we can't work without this tool, you're like, okay, maybe I'm on to something. So we moved from being just a side project to something we work on it for real, like trying to build something.
Love it. Great numbers, Julian. Well, thanks for sharing the story behind Mergify. Now, let's wrap it up with a lightning round of 6 questions to inspire others. Before we dive into today's lightning round, let's hear a quick word from a sponsor. Do you want to build your product the best way possible? Listening to user feedback is one of the best ways to do just that. Upvote provides you with feedback boards which you can use internally or share publicly with your users. It also includes a nifty product roadmap. You are getting a 10% discount when you try out their 14-day free trial and subscribe to one of their plans. Use promo code PIRATES and you are all set. Go to upvote.com and start a 14-day free trial. Now, let's go back to the interview. If you would start a SaaS today, what would be the first action to take?
I think I would start by building nothing. Like it's an advice I keep telling people that wants to start is like focus on marketing, like trying to understand, I mean, what you're going to build for sure, but like who's going to buy it, like what are your personas, who's going to be your customers, and how you're going to sell it, because it's fine to understand who's going to be your customers, but then how are you going to reach them, like how are you going to pitch them your idea, are you really solving a real problem, all of this aspect of the product, where I see a lot of people trying to build something right away. Like I have this problem, I see this problem, I'm going to build a solution, but I would spend a lot of time first trying to have people, giving their mail address, their credit card number, whatever, to be sure it's worth building and there's a real market beyond and you know how to address it and to get the customer from it.
Great advice. What is some of your favorite software that you can't live without in running daily operations of Mergify?
I think in your case, one of the tools we use the most is Datadog because our product is pretty technical. And if we don't have insight of what's happening inside our engine, it's pretty catastrophic. Like at the beginning, when we started Mergify, we didn't have any kind of monitoring because, I mean, if it was broken, it wasn't a big deal. And it's when we started to have people on support saying it's broken, and we're like, oh, okay, it's broken. We never noticed. Okay, we're going to fix it. We switched to having proper monitoring, and now we have so many metrics on everything that happens under the hood to be able to understand every aspect. I mean, when you work with a platform such as Github, it's very important to have a good metrics logs of everything that happens and be able to debug everything pretty quickly. So yeah, Datadog we use every day. Other than that, I think it's pretty standard, like using Slack, Gmail, or whatever, to be able to communicate between ourselves.
Those are great tools. What's your favorite app on your phone?
I don't think I use my phone very much actually to work. So for work, would mostly be using Slack or Gmail, but boring stuff.
So, what's your favorite book that you would recommend to people that are starting in SaaS?
Um, one of the book I love, and that's mostly because I'm really switching to marketing for Magify, is Traction from Gabriel Weinberg, the CEO of DuckDuckGo. So Traction is a great list of. When I started to do marketing, I had no clue what I was going to do because I never did marketing and I had no clue. It was just a big word for me. And Traction basically lays out a real plan, a lot of different channels you can use to get customers, to get users with your product. There's a lot of fantastic ideas that might apply or might not apply to your business depending on what you do. But this is a great roadmap and a great plan to say, okay, you could do anything to get them. Like anything is on the table. Like anything, there is no silver bullets, and there is no trick. There's a lot of different ideas. Some might work, some might not work, and it's okay to bring your own ideas and to try things. So that's a great book, I think, for that, and to give you a first start when you are a total beginner.
I agree. Great book. I have it on my bookshelf as well. So, Julian, since you love marketing so much, what SaaS brand do you admire the most?
I think it's Stripe, not for marketing per se, but for the experience. Like we've been using Stripe for billing, and it's the most amazing documentation and product I've been using so far. Like as an engineer, there, like, for example, the dashboard of Stripe, when you connect to the dashboard as a developer, there's everything is laid out properly. Like it's easy to understand the workflow, like the customer, the invoices, all the things that are pretty complicated and boring. It's easy to get them. You get access to a high level UI, but that UI is also, there and there are spread information about what happened under the hood, like the IDs of the customer that you are going to use as a developer, things like that. Everything is very well laid out, and the documentation is amazing, where you can actually copy paste code with data from your account in the documentation. Like it's improved with the data from your real account. You read the documentation personalized for you. I mean, and everything is very well documented and clear and easy to use. I've been since the beginning for the last 2 or 3 years we've been using Stripe. I've been amazed by the progress they made and the things they built.
Well said. And what about your favorite SaaS person to follow or read?
So I do follow a bunch of people be working on SaaS on Twitter and all. I think one of the guy I followed for the last 7 years is Nathan Berry, who built ConvertKit. So I actually discovered Nathan before he started to work on ConvertKit when he was writing books. And I actually wrote books because of him. Like he gave me the to write books, so I wrote a couple of books on the Python programming language. And then he started ConvertKit as a side project, and then it's a multi-million-dollar company. So I'm like, good job, man.
Wow, that's great, Julian. Well, thanks for your time today and sharing your story with us. To conclude this interview, where can we learn more about you and Mergify?
So Mergify.io is our website, and from that you can find everything. Like we're on Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever you want. So I mean, feel free to follow us. If you want to reach me and talk about anything from SaaS to Github to Mergify to whatever, I'm also available on Twitter, on LinkedIn. You can look me up, and I'll be happy to connect and to chat. So.